Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. We're going to start this panel, but first I want to tell you something about my opinion piece. Because I've been working in the industry for 15 years as a freelancer, and I've worked on big festivals, small festivals, and what I've always experienced in these past 15 years is that there's not a lot of women of us working backstage. So for the past 15 years, I've been really putting myself forward on getting women excited to work in the music industry. But there was a thing that I noticed, and that is that it's a not very welcome environment for women, trans people, queer people, or non-binary people. And I wanted to change that. That's why I wrote my opinion piece, because I was working my favorite festival, and for the 100th time I heard that a woman got harassed in the crowd. And I'm a stage manager. For the people who don't know what a stage manager is, they're the great people who are the communication between the band and the technicians, and are basically responsible for the entire stage. So security comes up to me and says, "Hey, I have this girl and she's super upset. Can you help her?" And with all the love, I do that. But the problem is that's not my responsibility. Security and safety should be the responsibility of the security guards or the production managers or something else. And that's why I wrote that opinion piece, because I know that the festival industry is one of the most innovative and creative industries. So I thought, why can we not do this? So then my piece went viral, and that made me super nervous, because that meant that I actually had to do something. So a lot of festivals and your favorite concert halls reached out to me, and the goal is that next year we're going to do a huge campaign throughout the Netherlands for concert venues and for big mainstream festivals to make safety a priority, because that's what the festival world wants as well, but we don't really know how. And that's what this panel is about. But before I go to this lovely panel, I go to you guys, because I want to warm up the crowd a little bit. So we're going to do the hands up. So if this statement applies to you, raise your hand, please, if you want. Hands up if you ever felt unsafe at a concert or a festival. Hands up if you know where to go if you feel unsafe at a festival or in a concert venue. That's already a lot less people. I see the doubt, and that's what we're going to talk about. Hands up if you think venues and festival organizations are doing enough right now. I see half of a hand, a little bit of a hand. And hands up if you ever wanted to help someone in trouble, but you didn't know how. There we go. That's what this panel is about. So I hope that at the end of the panel, you know what is happening right now, what festivals, organizations, or artists are doing about it, what you can do, and what the future is. So I want to introduce the panel, and I see that Vera is with the mic. So Vera, can you introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Vera, like Odette said. I've been a part of the music industry since late 2016. I mostly work as a production assistant at some of the mainstream festivals in the Netherlands, as well as a merchandiser, both on tour as well as at selected shows. And I am a very outspoken feminist. So far, mostly in safe spaces and on my Instagram page, but Odette decided to add my rage to this panel, so we'll see how that goes. Thank you for being here as well.
Hello, I'm Eva K. I'm the front person of Bondstrap and also a feminist. And what else shall I tell about myself? I think that the topic today is just very important and very interesting, and very happy to be here to talk about it. I think that's basically it for me. Yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is Petra and I'm active within the queer community since 2006. Yes, I'm that old. I've been a board member of Foundation PAN, the biggest youth LGBT organization within Holland. I've been the president of BiPlus Netherlands. I've worked for CSC Netherlands and now I have my own festival, Utrecht Queer Culture Festival. And in this October we have the third edition. So pretty active within the queer community, queer myself, feminist, and born and raised in Utrecht.
So I want to start us off by asking our panel members on what the situation is right now. I'll start with Eva. You're an artist. What are your experiences about safety as an artist? What are things that you've seen happen or have maybe happened to yourself? Yes, you can give it to Vera.
I have a little bit of starting up issues. I find it very intimidating to be in front of crowds, so I'm trying to, but I will hook in somewhere.
That's absolutely fine.
Okay, so my experience is difficult to say, like, where do I begin? Because there's so much happening personally. I've experienced it, like I've lost count of the amount of times that things have happened to me while I was working. Both fellow crew members, fans, even security that have harassed me. And I also noticed that a lot of other women in the industry, as well as queer people, are very often victimized.
Can you give us a specific example?
I definitely can. I remember one specific festival a few years ago where they had security come in, and the first day that the security was in position, I was walking around doing my job, and there were 4 security guards, like individually in different moments, that all like catcalled me, made remarks, were very inappropriate. And I probably seem quite calm right now, but I can still feel the rage, because the fucking irony, like, you're security, you're supposed to make us feel safe, but instead you're harassing me. And I think that's very telling when it comes to how kind of unseen this issue is. People don't understand, like, that it starts somewhere, and this is where it starts, and then it goes up and it goes up. But feeling unsafe in your workspace or anywhere really, obviously, it fucking sucks. It needs to stop.
And then I'll ask Petra, because Petra, you advise festivals and organizations on safety as well. What are the things that, if you want. No, absolutely fine.
I think that warmed me up very well, and I realized that I had a disconnect because it is such a broad topic, such a part of our reality that is so common and we're so used to, and that's not normal, and it's so insidious. Because for me, being harassed at a festival in the smallest and biggest ways is just part of the fucking deal, you know. And it's already in the very small things. It's the staring, it's the perpetual staring. And then in your body language, you try to give the sign like, I'm fucking not interesting. Sorry for the F-bombs, everyone okay with that? Okay. Doesn't work. You get approached. You tell the person, hey, leave me alone please. Doesn't work. The person keeps going. You tell the person, hey, I'm gay. It does not work at all. Sometimes it works to tell the guy, it's mostly a guy, to tell the guy like, hey, I have a boyfriend. Just lie about that, because they respect their peers more than they do women or queer people. It's unfortunately like that, but that's just the reality. That's just like standard. That's always happening, and that's like a very small start of rape culture for me. It goes up from there, and that's already, for me, too much. I'm already fucking pissed off, annoyed when that's happening. But that's happening. That's like, that's normal. Like, we recognize this, right? I mean,
And what are specific things that you have heard, or maybe festivals are afraid of?
Well, from my experience, I've organized a lot of events, and I can totally understand your story because we had lots of issues with security guys. For me, when I organize an event, the most important thing is that it's a safe space for everybody. And I do not want that when you enter the building, you're already your first confrontation, even before the party starts, with the safety guy. So because I'm now already active within the queer community for almost 20 years, I know the businesses who work very well, and the businesses we just shut up because they do not understand our community. But it's still kind of challenging. It's getting better-ish than 20 years ago or 15 years. But it's still, you need to stay in contact with the organization every time. If something pops up, you need to discuss it. And then sometimes I think, guys, it's like 2025. Do we still need to discuss this issue? But again, we need to, and we need to stay in communication. So yeah, related to the safety guys, not all are like bad persons, but it's a challenging situation to have, yeah.
And because we often, like as women or trans people, queer, non-binary, we recognize these experiences, but there are some stories that that usually stay under the radar, and that's the crew. And I think that Vera can tell us something about that, about her experiences, for example, on tour. Yes?
What I've noticed when I work as a merchandiser, quite often I will have a second seller with me, and I have to say that I am slightly sexist in this regard because I always prefer women and queer people to join me, to give them equal opportunity. And I've had a lot of incidents where someone is harassing me because I do a lot of merch for bands where the demographic is older men, and they are old school, so they think it's okay to make very nasty remarks or try to touch you, put money in your cleavage, whatever it may be. And when I started with this job, I would always feel afraid when stuff like that happened, and I would usually like run off to the bathroom and cry, or cry after the show, because I felt alone in it. I realized that when you talk about stuff like this with other crew members, which are usually also men, you get this generic response of, it's not that bad. Oh, they like you, they think you're good looking, so it's a compliment, this is good. And that's just not at all how that feels. So I've had some younger women work with me, and they saw that, because nowadays I have a pretty loud mouth, they saw me talking back to them and like putting them in their place, and they would tell me afterwards like, whoa, like I would never be able to do that. And I told them I felt the same way. When I was 21, I would see women that would speak up, and I was like, wow, I wish I had the guts to do that. And it's kind of sad that for the way that the industry works, I've grown to be like that, like the fact that it is necessary, because I wish it wasn't necessary. I prefer having pleasant interactions with people, and it's even gotten to the point where if people are genuinely kind to me, especially in this demographic, and they are not being creepy, then I am almost feeling the urge to say, wow, thank you. Thank you so much for being nice to me and for not making me feel unsafe. And every time I catch myself thinking this, I'm like, wow, fuck this shit.
Yes, and I think that's also a very a positive twist about this, because what we've seen is that if minorities speak up about these things, it helps other people understand, oh, wait, so you speak about this? Oh, then that means that I can do this. Because what I've learned in all these years, every time I saw, for example, what happens, I'm a little tech girl, and bands come up to me and they're like, hey, where's the stage manager? I'm like, that's me. No. And then you see them thinking like, yeah, but I expect this big butch tattooed bald man. And I'm very sorry to disappoint the people that expected that. And that's why I love having more of us in the industry, because we can really influence other people to stand up for themselves. And a big part of that is men. And Ava and I were talking beforehand on this, and she had very good points about why do you think that men might find it hard to speak up to their fellow men about this, to say, hey, what you're saying is really not okay. Can you talk about that? More about how you feel that if you talk to a man and you talk about this issue, what are the reactions that you usually get?
Well, usually, like what you said too, is I used to work at a venue, for example, 5 years back, and I thought it was a good idea to come up with a code of conduct, just some simple rules so that people knew how to behave in a club situation. And the manager there was an older man, and he took a look at it, and there was nothing weird in it. And he said, "Yeah, no, that's you know, I wanted to stay neutral so everyone can feel safe in here, you know, and comfortable. That's just gonna make stuff uncomfortable." And he's just pushed it away. And I think it's simply because of the fact that he has never experienced how it is to be harassed pretty much every time you go out of the house in small and big ways. Like, as a bigger man, you don't experience that, so you might not even understand. And I think that's a big problem, that they just don't understand. Yeah, they cannot imagine what that is like. They just don't. No.
And Petra, we're talking about barriers that we feel with organizations. What are some barriers that you've heard from organizations or when you talk about safety?
You mean the barriers that they don't stand up or speak up against safety? Well, the most common I heard is that they are afraid to do something wrong. They just don't want to discuss the difficult topic. They don't know how to do it. And then with my festival, at least we would offer our help to see what we can do, to give them advice how they can do sometimes something better than in the past. It's also, sometimes I got a feeling that they're kind of scared that their visitors will say something about it when there's, for example, rules of conduct. And I think, well, your visitors should be happy that there is, because if something is happening, then they're at least more secure. They know what to do, or they know that there are rules within this party. But it feels like they're scared to do something wrong. So lots of small barriers, and then they decide, okay, let's just ignore it. And then we can step up and say, okay, let's offer our help. Let's see what we can do, so that we can do it together to make it a safer space for everybody.
And what are specific things that you advise to do? What are simple things?
Well, related to my own festival, Utrecht Queer Culture Festival, is that the concept of the festival is that we make sure there's enough promotion, and we make sure that the program is diverse, and then all the other organizations can organize an event within our 10 days of the festival. So when you want to organize an event within our festival, you need to accept the conditions. And the conditions is a small contract. Within the contract, there are stated some rules to make it a safe space. One of the rules, for example, that you do everything within your event towards discrimination, that you do not accept any form of discrimination whatsoever, and if you see it happening on your event, then we are able to exclude you for next year. Most organizations are completely agreeing with it, and if they have some questions about it, then we can see together what we can do. But I think the big difference with my festival and the festivals you're working for is that an organization who's organized an event during my festival, they know the people that are coming, because it's their own visitors who normally is coming to their events, but this one is then bigger. So there is like a social construction, social security system already within. So then it's easier to make some rules that it's more a safe place, because you know the visitors who are coming.
Yeah, and that brings me to Vera, because Vera, what are the things that festivals that you work for do?
You mean backstage or front stage or both?
A little bit of both.
So backstage, for a few years now, a lot of festivals that I've worked at, they have like a little printout that they put up for a crew to see. That's basically stating like if you're getting sexually intimidated or bullied or anything along those lines. There's a few steps you can take to report it. There's phone numbers on it that say like you can call this person to confide in. But other than that, especially front stage, in my opinion, I think we should be way more visible with this. Because I recall, and I don't even remember like where I saw it or when this was, I think last year, I saw a statement somewhere that said if anything happens, so as a visitor, if anything happens to you, you can report to security and then they will help you. But my thought is, because this happens so much, like I said, be more visible with it. Put it on the screens. All of the big stages have screens on both sides. In between shows, you can put up little signs with information. I haven't seen those, personally. And I also think that a lot of the security is probably not able of handling this in a way that is good for a victim. So my random idea was that there should be specific security for these cases, just like police nowadays have like femicide departments. Apparently that's a new thing, I just heard about it today. There should be a specific crew on security teams for these people that are very visible, let's say in like pink security jackets, and then anyone who feels unsafe or gets harassed or anything along those lines can find that person or report to another security person, and then they would know to call that person because they specifically know how to take care of the victims, like be a listening ear, make sure they feel safe, ask them what they need, see if they want to take further steps. Because right now what I notice is if people say something, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the times people be like, oh, it's not that bad, they probably didn't mean it that way, it's just a compliment, whatever. That doesn't matter if someone does something to you and you're feeling unsafe and you're upset, then that should be met with respect and not some form of discussion about whether or not your feelings are valid, because they are. And in order for people to feel more safe, I think this is a pretty good idea.
Yeah, because what actually happens with the people who get caught? So say, hey, I just got touched up by some random guy. What happens? Because you know I'm just there like, what happens to that person on a festival?
Front stage,
Backstage, or
backstage.
with,
Okay, because front stage, as far as I know, they get away with it. Just like in daily life, like most cases go unreported and nothing happens to the perpetrator. Backstage, I actually have a specific story about this because I was working a festival at one time and we had a crew party, and obviously big festivals, big crews. And it was a lot of fun, people were having a drink, everyone was dancing together, but there was one guy from a specific crew and he was harassing women, like touching them, it being in their face and whatever. And at one point most people were aware of this, most of the women had been harassed, and nothing happened until after about 3 hours of this, some of the guys on like the core crew got wind or like heard about it, and they basically like grabbed him and threw him out. And then the follow-up steps were that obviously he was reprimanded, is the word. But I don't know the specifics of what his boss told him. I have a slight feeling that it was probably like how we say in Dutch, niet meer doen, hè? Something like this, like very, don't do that, but whatever. I was, however, present when they brought this guy in to the production office so he could apologize to, I wouldn't say he's the main boss, but like one of the very high up people in the organization, who's a man who was definitely not a victim, but the perpetrator was brought in to shake his hand and to apologize. And all of the women that had been harassed, nothing. So, yeah.
So there is a little room for improvement there, but what I do,
little.
a lot. But what I do hear is that if you speak up about it, especially to men, that men can really, really play a part in helping this situation become better. And I think artists can also do that, because Eva, as an artist, how would you want to spread awareness about this topic?
Well, I think it's time to throw in a very specific story, probably why I was invited here today. Bombstrap is performing on Baruch Open Air, and we saw that Jordi Dijkshoorn was in the lineup. And this is a person that has been wreaking havoc in Rotterdam in the scene for over 10 years. And I'm talking about sexual abuse, physical abuse, stalking, rape, everything. And yeah, at least 7 people I personally know were affected by this person. He is like banned from venues like to that extent. And still this person is booked on like a high level festival. So I know that at least 5 of my friends emailed Baruch Open Air with their story, like, hey, this and this happened to me, this is what he did, I feel unsafe, why is he in the lineup, why is this person getting a stage again while he showed that he cannot handle the power that comes with a stage? Why? And there was no response. So me and the guitarist of my band decided to boycott Baruch Open Air, step out of the lineup, and made a public statement about Jordi Dijkshoorn. And we did not expect that to have a lot of effect, but we mainly did it to put the spotlight again on the fact that he is a problematic person, and also to give recognition to the people that had survived this abuse. Like, you are seen, you are valid. It is not just being thrown away and passed by. We see you. So that was important to us. To our surprise though, Baruch Open Air chose to throw Jordi Dijkshoorn off the lineup. So we're very happy with that, because that means that a lot of people in Rotterdam can feel safe at this festival. And again, I do not think that a person that has showed year after year, time after time after time after time, we're not talking one incident, we're not talking 10 incidents, we're talking many incidents. I don't think a person like that should be given the power of the stage again after such excessive abuse. So it worked out like that, but unfortunately, talking often isn't enough, but money does talk, and the knife of public shame to a throat works, and that's how we got it done. But yeah, so we're really happy with that. Baruch Open Air is a little bit safer this year, but he's still in many lineups. Like, it's a problem.
I think that indeed deserves an applause.
Sorry, can I add something to
Yes, of course.
Because what you said is so true, and I really don't understand the festivals that are still booking those people. Milkshake had the same this year. They still book people who have like homophobic stories on the internet, on Instagram, and they still got booked. I really don't understand. So I really appreciate and have respect for the actions you did, because those people just need to be like completely declined on any festival, because otherwise they're in a safe space.
It is not about, how do you call that, excommunicating someone completely from the world. Like, I know that Jordi has apologized, and at some point he can be welcome again at a festival, I suppose, if he behaves, but not this quickly on a stage already. Like, if you show you can't deal with that, you don't get that power, period. Go away. And there's enough like super nice acts and super nice musicians that can handle and deal with that power and are responsible with it. So just book someone else. It's not rocket science, really. It's not.
And I think for the crowd, I think fans also really play a big part in that, because as a person, you can't know everything that happens. So if you do know that an artist is booked at a festival, and you do know that they're abusive, speak to the artists that that you know will speak up, send them a message, because this can really change the way we create a safe environment at festivals. But we've talked about a lot of things that really don't work, but we've also seen some things that do work. Petra, what are some examples that you guys have that are good examples for safety at festivals?
Oh well, you also mentioned already a little bit earlier. Within the queer community and at queer festivals, we have special security teams, Roze in Blauw, and that's kind of like a department of the police department who knows the queer community, who understands their values, and you know also that if something happens and you go to the Roze in Blauw, the pink and blue, then you know that your pronouns will be used correctly, they understand your case, so that really helps, and I'm really happy that they're always really visible. I think they do it like besides their working hours, so voluntarily based. So it's really amazing that on every Pride they're visible with their rainbow keycord, so that really helps. What I do for my own festivals that I already mentioned earlier, we have our conditions. If you want to organize an event within my festival, you need to sign a contract, and in that contract there are some rules which you need to adjust to. One of the rules is also related to a safe space, and I'm really happy that so far, well, knock on wood, but they didn't mention anything happened in the last 2 years in the festival. It's of course not, we are not sure that it will never happen, but with the contract that an organization really needs to take care of the safe space of the visitors that are coming, we try at least to make it a safe space as possible. So really going into discussion and have good conversations with organizations who organize an event about safe space and put it on the agenda and every time, and also ask after events if something happened, if there was some strange energy or whatsoever. It really helps to stay in contact, because hopefully when something happens they also report it to us, so we can make also we can also step up. So really put it on the table, discuss, and then see together what you can do to make it a safe environment. That really helps.
And Vera, what are things that you've seen that really help?
Well, in all of the times that I have personally experienced stuff, there has only been one occasion where I made an official report of it, and I think that was mostly because at that point I was very much at my limit, and I was kind of done with this narrative of nothing's gonna happen anyway, so why speak up? I figured I will report it this time and we'll see how they handle it. And one of the things that also kind of motivated me to report it was the fact that the person within the organization at that point, that was, in Dutch we say vertrouwenspersoon, I'm not sure, would you say confidant in English? I guess, yeah. We got along very well. Like, she was a huge feminist, very outspoken, and we kind of became friends too. So when this specific incident happened, I just told her, I messaged her right after, and she told me, or she asked me, do you want me to file the official report within the organization so that it goes to our security department and they take it from there? And I said yes, and they did. And in the end, one of the guys from the security department called me to ask me to tell the story again, and he was very kind about it, so that was good. And I know that they did file the complaint with the company that the man who harassed me worked for, but I didn't hear that much after it. So, I mean, I never saw the guy again, but then again, he works for a company that has a lot of employees, because it was a security company. So yeah, you're asking the sorry.
Yeah, I'll elaborate on this because ever since my opinion piece, I've had a lot of festivals and companies come towards me saying, hey, we have really good initiatives, but festivals are really not picking it up. I've heard that some festivals For example, they have the beach theme. So, thank you. So what we do is, the lifeguards, the big ass chairs, they put them very visibly on their festival site, so people know where to go when they're in danger or when they feel unsafe. I've spoken to a company that makes the light up lights on the bracelets. And they're like, oh, maybe we can do something with that. So people can squeeze their festival wristband, because when you're in a huge crowd, it's hard to find people that maybe help you, and it can be intimidating being in a crowd. And you can just, and this is not per se if you feel unsafe, but also if there's something medically, if you're getting unwell, you can just do this, and everyone around you knows that you need help in some way. And then I'll ask any one of you, if you want to react to this, what can people do themselves to help other people who feel unsafe?
Personally, I would say you are never overstepping. If you notice something and you feel like that doesn't look right, or this person seems uncomfortable, to just ask someone like, hey, are you okay? That is very kind of casual almost, just like quickly checking in. One thing I've definitely seen women do is pretend they know someone. So say a man is harassing them, and because women and queer people usually are like, how do you say that? Like we have the little radar. Yeah, we have a radar for it. So you notice it, you can go up to the person in question and just pretend to know them to get them away from the situation. And just ask in general. If you ask them, are you okay? Maybe they'll say no, maybe they're not sure how to answer. Just ask them, like, do you want me to help you, or do you want me to stay with you for a bit? Like, you can also just be there. You don't have to say much, but just be there so they know that they're not alone. Can already be very powerful. And then also, in regards to men, I don't remember who said this. It might have just been a quote on Instagram, but I read it a while ago where it was like, I don't think that men understand the power they have by telling other men that their behavior is fucked up. Because if I tell someone who's harassing a woman or who's harassing me, like, hey, what you're doing is fucked up and I want you to stop, they will probably laugh in my face. Because I'm just a girl. But if another man tells them what they're doing is fucked up, that's fucked up, they will probably be like, oh. Because they do respect other men, generally. And I would personally really appreciate it if more people started doing that. Both stepping in when you see someone's in an unsafe situation and calling people out. I think it's better to maybe call someone out and then realize that what they were doing wasn't an issue than to risk someone being even more unsafe, seriously getting harmed. Yeah.
I totally agree on that, of course. I also hope, maybe it's a little bit naive, maybe, but I also hope that the people who kind of like already know that their behavior is maybe not the best behavior ever have some self-reflection. I know, maybe it's a little bit naive, no, but when you're going out, you're not 18 anymore. It's okay to have some self-reflection, and maybe like that in the past you had some moves you did was not really correct. And I hope you then learn from it, but that starts with self-reflection. So now with this topic more on the agenda, more like out in the open, I hope people have some more self-reflection about their behavior. Also when they have some few beers.
Yeah, regarding like the self-reflection and stuff, I think because we were talking earlier about this, it's a triangle. I'm not sure if they call it the triangle of rape culture, but it's something along those lines, and it very clearly depicts how it starts with like catcalling and locker room banter and all that stuff, and then it progresses to unwanted touching, stalking, rape, and finally, like at the very top, murder. One of the biggest challenges, I think, in this discussion in general, and not just at festivals, is the fact that people kind of ignore the first step in the triangle. So if someone is like, let's say you have a buddy and he catcalls women, or he touches women whenever you go out, or whatever, and you're just kind of laughing it off. You're like, oh, you know, like, well, she's a hot girl. Oh, she's wearing a she's wearing a short skirt. Like, clearly she wants this kind of attention. She fucking doesn't. Say something, because this is where it starts. There's a really good show by Daniel Sloss. It's called X. I think you can watch it on HBO. And he tells a story about one of his friends raping one of his female friends. And he basically mentions how this made him self-reflect, because he says he never thought he would do it, but then when it happened, he's asking himself, okay, but were there signs? And there's always signs. Because someone doesn't have a clean slate and then wake up one day and decide to rape or murder someone. Someone's gonna have behaviors that show the first step of the triangle, and the second one, and the third one, and call people out.
And I think with that, we have 15 minutes left. If you have any questions for our panel, you're more than welcome to come up here. There's a mic here. So yeah, I'll give you a little time. Don't know if we have music. Yes.
Hi. First of all, thanks for this panel. It's really great to have a space for this at this fest and also to hear you speak. I think while I was hearing you talk, I was like reflecting in my mind about what you were saying. And I think the topic of privilege is a big one, right? Like, we are talking about this, especially as women, queer people, and non-binary people, and everyone that's basically not cis white men in this case. And we are talking about it. It's not a choice per se. We talk about it because it's happening to us. And when you talk about men, I think you mentioned that they can help to make the situation better. I wonder if it's help or if it's their responsibility. Like, it's not a helping hand necessarily that they are reaching out to us, even though I understand that also as a man it might be hard to navigate the situation, especially if you are in a group of your peers and somebody catcalls someone and then you are the one who says, hey, that's fucked up, right? How can we encourage this behavior in men, and how can we include them more in the narrative of this as somebody that has to take responsibility and not just be a bystander? I think that's my question.
That's a good question. Yeah, I think you have something good to say. I wanted to answer or give a little thing that popped into my mind, which is indeed a problem with cis hetero men often, is that they are raised from a very young age in big and small ways that they are entitled to the attention of women. And I think there should be a lot of inner work there. They have to do their homework. They're behind on their homework. I think a lot of women did their homework. I think a lot of queer people did their homework because we had to, because we're unsafe. Now cis hetero men have to do their homework. You're behind on your homework. And no one is, no one is entitled to give you attention under any circumstances. And I think that is something that they need to understand deeply. And I don't know how that is done, but there's in the core a problem there, that they think, that they can have your attention. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Entitlement is a really big issue here. But also, like what you were saying, like who's responsible? I want to say that we all are, because we need to stick together if we really want to see change. The difficult thing here, I would say, is that the conversation often sparks a lot of, or like a really big divide, because personally, I talk about this a lot with people. I've had conversations with just groups of men about this. And even if you are very nuanced and speaking calmly, all they are hearing you say is like, all men are bad, you do this, you are guilty, you are the problem. And then the conversation usually just like completely sidetracks, and you get stuck in this loop of explaining, no, not all men, but always a man, and blah blah blah. And you can be as specific as you want, but still, I think for many men, it's just too uncomfortable. Like they prefer just like staying in this little bubble where they think that the world is divided in like good men and then like the crazy evil men and nothing in between. And what everybody needs to understand is that there are loads of good men, there's great men, of course there are. But then there's also the men that allow it to happen. And there's the men that actually do this shit. There's the men that are constantly pushing boundaries. It's a very gray area. So yeah, I think this is something that we should keep in mind when we have this conversation. I guess like give a little disclaimer of like, it's not a personal attack, but we really need to speak about this openly, because if we want to see change and if you care, you need to sit down and listen and not get defensive right away. Just listen to us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what I hear you both say, I don't know if you want to, yeah.
A good question, really good question. I need to think about it a little bit, but I also think that it can happen, it can maybe work out better if you use role models, especially for the men who are working at specific, for example, the people from soccer teams, music players, people like who have a big community behind them. If you put them in place with a good message, it can also help. But I think that is one part. The other part is indeed the one-to-one conversation is really helpful. But it might also be helpful if we have some good role models who can step up and who can say like, these are my norms, my values, treat people equal, blah blah blah. So I think it's two ways.
Yeah, and what I hear all of you say as well is that this cannot be solved with one conversation with a man. And I think we need to keep that in mind, because we have a lot of, I think everyone here has in some way been introduced to this subject, and we have a lot to say about this. So keep that in mind, that you don't overwhelm them, because I think we can get further with a good one-on-one than trying to overwhelm them. Don't know how I wanted to finish that one. Is there someone else who has a question? You can come forward. I see some people in doubt. We don't bite. Yes.
So I want to add one more little thing, because I think I've been kind of trained as well with this whole not all men thing, but now this just popped into my head. Also a quote I saw on Instagram last week. One of the most insidious tools of the patriarchy are the women trained to defend it. That is something that I am still occasionally kind of confronted by. I am personally living in a very left bubble, and the women I surround myself with are generally outspoken feminists. But every now and then I still meet women or see women online that have this, the indoctrination of the patriarchy, I want to say. Sounds very heavy, but it is what it is. Yeah, there's the metaphor of the crabs in a bucket, for example. And that people relate this to women quite often, where they say if you have a bucket full of crabs, they can actually all get out if they work together. But what they do is, as soon as one of them starts to try and get out, the other ones pull them down. And I think that's a pretty good metaphor for the way that a lot of women, unfortunately, still view other women. They're like, oh, you're successful, that's not cool, and they don't support each other. And this also relates to the way they view feminist subjects. We call them pick-me girls sometimes. I always find talking to these women very interesting because they have a lot to learn still, I would say. I kind of forgot my point here, sorry about that.
I think that happens to the best of us. I'll give you some time to ask a question, but if I think we're all down here. You can also, if you're not comfortable speaking on a mic, we'll be around here and you can ask your question or talk to us behind the scenes. So I'll end this with a little explanation on what now. So I'm always a very busy bee, so I'm going to start with the festival industry. Since my opinion piece, a lot of amazing people have reached out to help us, people who are also behind huge campaigns, who know how to do this, because I have no clue. At the end of September, I'm also speaking on the biggest congress of the music industry in the Netherlands to talk about the subject and help festivals have it as their first priority and have safety as their first priority on the list, to help them put that on the first priority. Because let's not forget, organizing a festival is hard work, and there's so many things that you need to do as a festival, and I think most of the festival managers that I've spoken with are very happy to do something about it, but they just don't know how. So if you have a good idea, if you want to talk about this, please tell your favorite venues, tell your festivals about the fact that we are starting this movement. Tell them to reach out to me. If you want to find me on Instagram, this is not sponsored or a plug. I'm not used to this. It's Odette, ODET.RO. You can just send me a DM with your idea or like a thing that you heard before, because every little thing helps to make festivals safer in the future. I want to thank our panel members, and I want to thank Beware of Banshees for inviting us, because it's been absolutely amazing, and you guys are doing a fantastic job here. Thank you.